RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. We are live for a Wednesday night edition. Excited to connect and looking forward to finding out what's on your radar. So I came across a couple interesting headlines today, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. And then, of course, see what you guys have been keeping an eye on, and we can talk about a little bit. But hope everyone's doing well. Any first-time viewers, feel free to let us know where you're watching from in the chat. And then when the phone lines open up, I would love to hear your voice. 313-462-0027. All right, let me check in real quick with the comment section, see if anybody wanted to just holler at me real quick, and then we'll jump into some articles and see where it takes us. But hope everyone's doing well. Looking forward to connecting. And while you're at it, don't be afraid. Hit the thumbs up button beneath this video here. Hopefully, it'll notify a few more people that want to connect, and then they can join us and hang out a little bit. And of course, all types of stories worth touching on. So we're going to touch on as many as we can. So we got Ed Hammond in the building. We got Mike C. We got Solo in the building. We got Just Fix It. We got Tom. We got DC Precise. What else? We got Adam here. We got Bitcoin Phoenix. We got Gritty Feastal. We got Journey. Was that Journey something? Journey Moore. Vivian. Kareem. Daryl checking in. Armando. Tony B in the building. My tinfoil hat, S400, worldwide emergency branding. Okay, appreciate you guys for hanging out, man. As always, I'm sure there's stories that you've been keeping an eye on. Feel free to throw them out in the chat, and then we'll touch on them, and I'll try to pull them up or whatnot. Then I want to make sure if you have an article or something that might be relatively hard to find, I want to encourage you to send that to rtdnews@proton.mail, and that'll make it easier for me to just grab it and pop it on the screen, so that we can add it during the call-in portion, or just touch on it, share our thoughts on it throughout the day. So feel free to do that. So put that little information right here so you guys can see it. But anyway, one of the not surprising news stories of the day happens to be in regards to this current platform that you guys are watching me on, more than likely. And so as of right now, I'm streaming on Twitch, DLive, Twitter, I think sometimes was acting up, as well as VK, which is a Russian platform. So I try to have this show on multiple platforms, just because at any point, based upon all the rules and regulations as they're changing the game, YouTube could probably just pull a cord. So I want to make sure you guys are connected. And so beneath this video here is a link to all the social media platforms to stay connected. And then, of course, Discord and the Telegram is probably the best way to stay plugged in. But how could I not pass this up by just sharing my 2 cents on it? But it says YouTube to remove all anti-participation misinformation. And so it looks like, as I've mentioned, and I think we've all touched on this before, but the awakening moment of people realizing that they've been lied to. And of course, I think this probably has a lot to do with Project Veritas over the last week and a half. I think they're on part 3 of coming out with some very surprising information from medical professionals, as well as from the actual pharmaceutical employees, as to how dangerous this whole experiment really is. And so I think I actually checked into the Project Veritas, I think it's part 2, and it was still up on YouTube, close to 400, 500,000 views. And that was quite surprising. And so I'd assume that some of the higher ups and a lot of politicians and the puppets of the system probably start complaining, saying that, hey, YouTube, you are the #1 go-to platform for video streaming. You need to do something about that. So I haven't checked lately, but it's good to say that anything in regards to this whole experiment, they're going to try to crack down on it, man. And of course, there's so much division right now. I'm watching so much happen in the sports realm, as we have so many commentators that just love, sharing their opinions and viewpoints on other individuals and their individual rights to make a choice for what they do and do not want to do. And it looks like if you are a celebrity or a sports figure, and if you have an opposing viewpoint, you're not supposed to let the world know. You're supposed to keep it to yourself and just do as you're told, and not actually use critical thinking. But yet a lot of people are waking up. More and more celebrities are questioning things. A lot of athletes are questioning things, and that's good to see. But then again, it causes more reactions like this, to where expect more of a pushback in some form or fashion. We got what says Rad 1234. It says good evening 92 in Detroit, must listen. Wayne, Michigan, 92 in Detroit. I'll check it out. Not familiar with it, but appreciate you joining, my man. So just something to be aware of. All your favorite content creators, it's good to say they're on alternative platforms, so make sure you guys connect with them if you want to stay plugged in. That's just my best advice for you guys right there. But one thing that really caught my attention amongst many happens to be, as I put in the chat there, basically that this is the last store in America that is the cheapest, the most affordable store to purchase little small knickknacks from, and it's no longer going to be called the Dollar Tree. Ultimately, they're going to have to rebrand the name, because literally we're at the point now, because of the increase in the current monetary base, which has led to consumer price increases continuously, that the Dollar Tree is having issues. And of course, they're saying the supply chain. Of course, we know all the container ships is just stuck at ports and whatnot. But stocking the shelves is becoming more costlier for them, and they need to pass on their costs to the consumers. So here we have it, the great consumer price increase that will continue to grow. And so Dollar Tree breaks their $1 barrier as costs take a bite. And I just thumbed through a couple things here, and then of course share my 2 cents on it. Feel free to share yours as well, because Dollar Tree is one of my favorite stores. It's always a quick stop to grab some quick snacks, little knick-knack gadgets, and little plastic items that are disposable. You use it one time, throw it out just because it was $1, but not no more. But this is very sad. And I remember, and let me know for my people who have done a little traveling, going to various countries, whether it be Latin America or Europe, and there is no dollar store or no euro, no €1 store or a 1 peso store. No, it's nothing like that. So we have been very privileged to have a store where you can walk in there. Well, you can walk in there with $1, and of course here in Michigan I give them 6 cents of tax, but yet 106 you can walk out with an item. Those days are done. And so therefore, this to me, when I saw this is that moment, that defining moment of the true valuation of a Federal Reserve note in regards to what you can actually purchase. You can no longer say that a dollar can actually buy you something of substance, because as of right now, there's not much that you can actually purchase, probably except a pack of gum. But I'm sure at some point that's going to be well above $1 as well. But let me keep moving, man. But anyway, a couple things here in the little article, but not too much worth your while. But it's just the CEO of the store basically talking about how they've done the best they could to hold off on passing on those costs to consumers. But he gave a couple things talking about the supply chain and the rising cost of shipping, which is taking a bite out of their $1.50, $1.60 out of its per share profits this year. So they have to do something about it. And so they're adding additional items above $1. It's going to be called Dollar Tree Plus at some point. So once again, there goes America right there officially, man. But anyway, keep it moving. And back to this whole Fedflation. And so Jerome Powell out here just being somewhat honest, but yet of course sugarcoating it, pointing the blame in the wrong direction as far as why things are the way that they are. But it says Fed Chair Powell calls inflation frustrating. Oh, you don't think, and sees it running into next year. And so if I was to take that one statement that was put together by the creator of this article here and interpret that, decipher that, Federal Chair Powell calls inflation excruciatingly painful and sees it running hot for the rest of this decade. That would be the real title if they were able to tell the truth. But just some things here that stood out, man. So it looks like he gave a little bit of a spiel to the European Central Bank today and just basically let out some of his thoughts as to why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. But look at this dude. Look what he used as the primary excuse for what's frustrating him. It says, hosted by the European Central Bank, that he was frustrated that getting people fully participated, getting people vaccinated, and arresting the spread of the variant remains the most important economic policy that we have. So once again, how did participation in this global experimentation equate to an economic policy, other than the fact that they need more excuses to point the blame to the real issue, which is it's all because of central banking and the government using them as a crutch to basically steal from every single person in this country and beyond. But it says it's also frustrating to see the bottlenecks and supply chain problems not getting better. It says we see that continuing into next year probably and holding up inflation longer than we had thought. So I guess he's probably beginning to change his viewpoint on that transitory side of things. Because think about this, as long as the supply issues remain, and of course, we're seeing China slow down. So a lot of the manufactured goods we purchase here in America, of course, majority of the things we do purchase here says made in China. And if those things are not steadily brought in, then shelves are empty and the remaining goods and services on shelves, the sticker price has to go up. And so therefore, that leads to more Fedflation. And so is it a surprise? So I see this whole supply issue. Of course, some of it is natural, but most of it is directly from the higher ups that's deliberately withholding goods and services, causing more of a panic and scare, because that's all a part of their plan. They need at least 10 points of failure to bring in their true agenda, which is, of course, the Great Reset, the whole little scamdemic. But it says here, inflation by the Fed's preferred measure is running at its hottest pace in about 30 years. So according to their own measurements, it's running high at 30 years. But yet that's their, fake numbers. But we all know where to get more reliable numbers from. Of course, we got John Williams, Shadow Stats, stuff like that. Anyway, keep it moving. And so just more headlines about the word inflation. It says professor who called the Dow 20,000 says he's nervous about trends in inflation that could spark a stock market correction. So, yeah, we'll see what that plays out to. But mind you, the entire focus by mainstream is inflation. At the same time, everything is designed to fight deflation, and the deflationary forces are so much greater than the inflationary pressures, just because, as was brought to our attention, that not only do we have debt issues in this country, which always requires a fresh amount of liquidity being pumped into the system, which as of right now is kind of on pause, depending on this debt ceiling and these bills that's going to be passed. But then also Europe and the rest of the world has also have debt issues in dollars. So they're going to need a lot more dollars to fight this deflationary pressure. So it's that back and forth of stagflation that's in full effect here. But I'll just leave it at Fed inflation. Anyway, I know I'm rambling a lot, but I got one more thing I want to share with you real quick, and then we'll open up phone lines. I'm curious to hear what everybody else is talking about out here. But just looking at the purchasing power of a dollar. So I always use this little visual aid here because it's a true indication of where we've come since the creation of the Federal Reserve. And so every problem we're experiencing in the financial system and in the global monetary sense is all due to the nationalization of national currencies through privatized central banks. And so prior to 1913, the dollar, Federal Reserve note, which wasn't even around when we use actual coinage, purchased so much more than we could ever have imagined, lost that amount of purchasing power. And so with compound inflation since 1913, I got a graph here I'm going to show you in a minute. It equates to the amount of purchasing power loss, or give or take 25,000 or so percent inflation, or what used to cost $1 in the earlier part of the early century now costs 25 times more. That's how bad things are due to centrally controlled entities controlling a nation's currency. And so just to piggyback on that a little bit, I want to share with you some graphs here that caught my attention just because it shines more light into the bigger picture of how, due to our nature of our monetary system being debt-based, there's no way out of this until something gives. And we know what gives is going to be this entire monetary system. And of course, all the financial products and everything that they created off of the back of this currency unit. But here's a little graph here I thought I would share. It says the buying power of $1 in 1800. So just to give an idea from a historical standpoint, what an actual dollar was, I'll actually show a picture of what a dollar was in 1800. So here we have a draped bust dollar, 1800 Liberty right there. So these are just $1 coins. And just think about what could have been purchased that long ago. That was literally a week's wage, depending on what sector you're in. So imagine going to work for an entire week, probably putting in maybe 40 hours, give or take. And if you were in a lower sector job, probably in a cotton field, or not in the cotton field, but in some type of lower paying income, you're probably getting paid $1 a week or around there 100 plus years ago. And so look at what a dollar can do for you today. It can't do much for you, not even in Dollar Tree anymore. But back to my little graph real quick. So here we have on the chart here what a dollar could purchase in 1800. So think about this. It was literally this was actual price stability. So the Federal Reserve say that they're in this for price stability and maximum employment. We had steady prices, relatively speaking, all throughout the 1800s. Everything was relatively stable. And then, of course, we had a couple central banks here and there, a couple issues here. But yet, here we go, 1913. That's when everything began. And then look at that, what happened ever since. Consumer price increases up the wazoo. So basically, according to this, what it used to cost a dollar during this time frame here would now cost $21.71. Then let's scroll down even more. This is a visual aid here, buying power of $1 over time. So going back to 1800, they put it at $1. And of course, we see how this thing fluctuates, which this is where one of my favorite graphs is always mentioned. You know, this basically resembles this to the T. And of course, every president has played their part. And then here's another one here. This is another one here that shows the compound effect of asset price increases over time, i.e. diminishing of purchasing power. And so here it says 2,555% inflation through November of 2020. So give you an idea, it says it isn't just a arithmetic doubling, it is a compounding. So just as compound interest can multiply your savings, compound inflation can multiply the effects of inflation. As you can see from the cumulative inflation chart since 1913, we have seen 2,555% inflation. So it just think about those are like Venezuela style numbers, but yet drawn out over 108 year or so time period. And so just put that into your back of your mind as to how much more things really cost in comparison to the way things used to be. And of course, not much, currency was needed for doing much, but here's a visual aid of that real quick. And I'm going to move on. But 1913-ish, all the way up to where we're at now, 2,500% inflation at the end of the day using, some real math. So just something to think about, people. But yet, once again, we're just at the beginning of all this as far as where they're going to take this, because ain't no putting the genie back in the bottle now that it's been unleashed. Because they can't increase rates naturally, because that will cause a crash. And we can't go negative because that will put them in a tight bind with all that debt. And so what do? They're going to continue to try to create mechanisms and monetary tools to keep this ship afloat, or else. But anyway, so I thought I would just put that out there real quick. And then, of course, I did the video earlier talking about more of the pressure coming from the politicians on people participating or else. And so this is that little employer mandate where they're going to start passing fines now. So expect another wave of possible layoffs in the coming weeks and months. So just stuff that caught my attention today, man. But anyway, let's talk, man. Let's open up the phone lines. I'm curious to hear what's on your mind. And before I actually open the phone lines, trying to stick to my guns a little bit, let me just share with you some information on how everybody can stay up to date and in tune with what's going on here. So be with me. One second. Visit Rethinking the Dollar throughout the day. Your place for news on metals, gold, crypto, you name it. Scroll down to the bottom and you get a chance to see the daily videos, the recommended videos, and more importantly, the 5 reasons to unplug from the monetary matrix, with the first one being the awakening period. Step number 1, test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions, average is 60%. Follow up with the alternative perspective with the monetary reports. Consider becoming a supporter of the Rethinking the Dollar platform via Patreon. Get a chance to hang out off air, as well as additional information that can't be discussed on YouTube. Any support is helpful. With the crackdown on alternative media, the best thing to do is connect off air. Scroll down to the very bottom. You can find Rethinking the Dollar on Telegram, audio, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, you name it. The most important ones will be the email list where you can get notified weekly, the Discord page, and make sure you connect on Telegram. And last, don't forget to visit the RTD store where you can get merchandise as well as additional information and resources. And most importantly, scroll down to the bottom and get your weight up with all the limited edition rounds only available on the RTD store. All right, let's talk. Give me a call. Curious to hear what's on your mind. And as always, phone lines are open, 313-462-0027. Give me a call. And love to hear what's on your mind, man. A lot of things worth touching on. A lot of stories out there. Let's just see what's going on. So we do have a couple calls coming in. Let me click on this if I can get this. Here we go. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Ed. How you doing, Mike?
Ed, I'm doing good, my friend. What's on your mind tonight?
A quick heads up for people in Ohio. The tax on gold and silver is coming off Friday, October 1st. I know in Michigan you guys didn't have it for a while. We had it, and they took it off, and they put it back on. But it's coming off again October 1st. And then I was talking to my coin guy today. For the first time, 90% is higher than bars.
Really?
But right now I can get a 100-ounce bar for less than $25 an ounce.
Oh.
The premium, the premium's like $3.25.
Yeah.
And if you add that up, it's less than 25, which is a good deal. And I also saw the other day where Canadian maple leafs were only +5. So, man, it's like a fire sale when you look at what things are costing.
Yeah. This fair inflation, man. Take advantage of that as much as you can. We all know that. But I saw today, I checked in with the markets earlier, and I saw that the price, as soon as on opening, it dropped from 20, it was like 21. Let me see what it got down. It got down to 21.44 or something like that. And it's just amazing how they open the markets up and the damn thing just tanks. And so it's like, wow, like how could that be? All this Fed inflation out here and the damn metals price drop like that. But we know who controls it and how they're doing it. So, yeah.
When I talk to people that really aren't aware, I'll say, tell me something that's not going up. Tell me some things that aren't going up.
Yeah.
And every now and then they'll say, a big screen TV or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, tell me something that's not going up. I said, gold and silver is not going up. Doesn't that strike you as a little bit strange that that's the only thing in the world that's not going up?
good.
They don't know what to say. They're like, well, I don't know. I guess it ain't worth as much. And I'm like, no, they're holding it, man. They're holding it. We better start holding it.
Yeah. And
I appreciate all you do, Mike. Love the show, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling and checking in with us.
All right, bye.
Yeah, good stuff, people. Good stuff. All right, let's keep it going, man. So give me a call. Curious to hear what's going on. Cattle are participating. Yeah, this is some interesting stuff, man. And so we're going to definitely, like the agenda is, it never ceases, man. They're going to try their best to peer pressure everybody into participating. And I got some more stuff I want to touch on in a second, but I was trying to hold off. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing this evening, Mike? This is Dwayne from the Midwest.
Wayne from the Midwest. What's going on, boss man? How you doing?
Nothing much. I just got my opinion. You asked a question earlier when you was giving out your description. How does I wrote it down. How does this experiment equal with helping the economy?
Yeah.
And my thoughts on that is that there was a report, I forgot where I saw it today, that report, I think it was a CDC report that came out that 50,000 senior citizens passed away once they was, they decided to enroll in the experiment.
Yeah.
So if you got 50,000 people pass away when they enroll in the experiment, that means those, and they're elderly, that means, guess what? You don't have to pay Social Security.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay Medicaid.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay pension.
Yeah. It saves the government from having to come out of some of those funds that they promised years and years and years ago. Wow. And people work for and put in on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's kind of sad that we got to this situation, but I'm just glad that people are waking up, including the celebrities you talked on that. Yeah. And my thing is, I think they're blowing that situation more out of proportion than anybody, because if you think about it, how would we know if they didn't get if they didn't enroll into the experiment? How would we know?
Right. Very true.
We wouldn't know. So that's all I have, Mike. I just thought give my 2 cents about that question that you posed. So those are my thoughts.
Hey, man, appreciate you as always, man. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, be good. And so speaking of which, I see in the chat, and I want to throw out this real quick. So everybody know Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, and so I didn't have a chance to watch it yet, but I purchased all of his books. Rich Dad Poor Dad was instrumental in my financial literacy. But yet, here's an interview he did earlier, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on it, because at some point, you keep predicting the worst of the worst. It's going to come true. But yet, I think he's been out here preaching, the market crash, the last crash, dollar death and stuff like that, last 20 years or 15 years for sure. But yet, this recent video says the biggest crash in world history. Of course, that's a catchy way to get people's attention. But yet, the biggest crash in world history hits this October. And I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet. So if any of my people out there listen to it already, let me know what some of the key indicators he's pointing to. I would assume he's probably talking about the government debt as well as the international issues with China and you name it. But, let me know what you guys think, because, Jonathan says hyperbole. Definitely. But yeah, it's catchy because at some point he's out there. And of course, I follow him on Twitter as well. And he always tweets about, gold, silver, and Bitcoin now. So he's definitely on the Bitcoin wagon. And he just talks about how, the rich don't pay taxes. And he actually walk you through how to avoid paying taxes in a legal sense. So that's education right there, man. And so a lot of, small business owners and business owners in general have figured out ways to make sure they, don't overpay Uncle Sam. Pay him very little if possible. Hello, caller. Where we calling from?
Hi, good evening. This is Latrice calling from Brooklyn.
Hey there. How you doing? What's on your mind tonight?
All right. So just was feeding into what you were saying about Robert Kowalski. People like him, they're like hedge fund managers. They win when things go down. This is just another way how the wealthy stay wealthy, because they can play both sides of the fence. He's always been a big advocate of buying precious metals, and he talks about how much gold and silver he owns and real estate, and how he plays with Bitcoin a little bit and stuff like that. So it would seem very profitable for him if everything crashes and takes a downturn, because like how Donald Trump always, he's like the comeback kid, because every time, like with the real estate market, every time it took a turn for the worse, they was able to go in, buy cheap, and then once the economy came back up, that's when they can sell, and make huge profits.
Right.
But I just wanted to say, for the dollar, because I did come on a little late, but I seen the thumbnail. For that thing with the Dollar Tree, they had already had, I seen an article from Sense a little before the whole scam-demic started. And that was always the plan, to make Dollar Tree end up not being a dollar store anymore. But again, this fits into the overall agenda, because they've been watching the trend on how people are spending their money. And, they're just trying to squeeze when I say every penny, we already know all that, because you talk about this all the time.
Right.
So to close, because I try to keep it short, best I can. I would like to remind everyone to not be like the parable, or not be like in the parable of the seed that Christ talked about, where we are like the seed that fell amongst the thorns and the thistles. And even though that seed was able to start on something, it didn't get to flourish because it let the thorns and the thistles choke it out. So the thorns and the thistles, as Christ explained to the disciples, was the cares of this world, the cares of this life.
Right.
We can't take none of this stuff with us. I know it seems to be profitable to make these investments into these tangible things, but because so much of this stuff is, we're battling not against flesh and blood, but we're battling against principalities and spiritual, evil spirits and higher realms and all this other stuff. These tangibles, this whole agenda, they have taken everything into account. That whole 2,000 and some thousand pages of all them laws and legalities and bylaws and little statutes and sub-statutes and subdivisions, all of that stuff is to take into account to make sure that if there's one loophole anywhere, they got something to tie that loophole up.
Yeah.
Right? So Satan is not leaving no stone unturned, but he figures two things. One thing is that humans are fallible. There's always a weakness in human systems. So even with the best of intentions, nothing goes according to plan.
Right.
And the other thing is that many plans that the man have, but it's the Lord will that's done.
Hey, 100.
So
appreciate you.
Okay. Okay. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Let me just one little quick thing.
Yeah.
We must all start to come away from this Egyptian / Babylonian / Romance mindset, right? We must not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
Right.
And faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God.
Right.
So please, I encourage everyone, if you want to know how to really navigate through this coming storm, the scriptures has all the answers. If you need a direct line, pray. I can't stress that enough. I am an advocate of prayer because I live by it, and it has made such a great difference in my life. Right. And it's only by the grace of God have I made it through all the things I've gone through, including now. Right. So that's just the best thing I can share out of everything. But please read the scriptures and pray. That's how we're going to make it through.
All right. Thanks for your call.
All right. All right. Thanks.
Hello, caller. Where are you calling from? Hello? Maybe not. All right. Yeah, let's talk, man. So I saw a lot of good thoughts out there in the chat. Let me touch on this. And so trying to get some calls in. Let me hear. Let me kick this button here. Okay. Let me see. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland. One more time. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing excellent. Now that you called, man. What's going on?
Man, he gave us one more time to be together. Let's talk about it.
Exactly.
I think we still give the Fed way too much credit. I don't think they actually know what the hell they do.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
What happened?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
What happened in 08? They pumped money into the system. What happened in the 17th? What happened in 19th? What's happening now? They're just pumping money, alleged money into this system. Yeah. Because there is no money. It's all based on faith and credit.
Right. 100%.
And once the credit get extinguished, all you got is what? Faith. And once the faith is gone, what do you got? You got nothing.
Nothing.
You got war. That's how they switched over the money system. Is through war. But we didn't go to war. COVID was supposed to be the war, and we didn't fall for the okie doke. I was listening to the banking congressional hearings today. I don't know if you got a chance to see that.
I just read some of the articles afterwards. Give me the rundown.
And I'm almost all the way through it, but I still got a little bit to go. But what I see is the bankers aren't even scared about this crypto stuff. They're like, well, unless they're ready to become a bank, they can do all they want. All we're going to do is just continue to have the SEC go down their throat. We're going to have the banking community go down, or the banking community go down their throat until they're ready to give up. They said unless they're willing to be a bank and follow chartered laws, then they ain't even got a dog in the fight.
Yeah. Now, as far as give up, like at this current moment, there's a good portion of those projects, which are, i.e., the next form of businesses, because they got communities, teams, they got everything they need. So as long as they got the on ramps and the off ramps, and they have stable coins to be the facilitator for all that, I think, they're going to keep developing, and people going to still, take profits whenever the markets dip up and down day by day. So I don't think the crypto community is really concerned with that, because more people believe in that. They're going to lessen up. They're going to figure out a way to work this out. And especially like right now in Canada's ahead of the game. They've approved the Ethereum ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, and a merge. So it just lead this country. But yet the industry, I don't think is going to be that, impacted overall, I think.
You know what? I don't get scared until they do one thing. What rules the money? What you got to get in order to have say I got something? You have to get bonds. If you don't have bonds, you really just working with a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody offering bonds in this crypto stuff, are they?
No, but then now we have the first country and more to come that has made Bitcoin itself, not like up here promoting it, but Bitcoin a legal tender, to where it in of itself is supported by the mining networks in the form. They're going to end up spinning some products off that. They're going to make some bonds and some derivatives and all that stuff off of that. But yet, if I can spend with my phone and get what I need at the store or whatever, or pay a bill, I'll be fine without having to use a debt instrument known as a bond. You know what I'm saying? For now.
Okay. Who has that kind of money to supply to the world?
Nobody as of
has
now.
Kind of money to supply to the world. We're 28 trillion, and everybody's still taking our money.
Yeah, yeah, and they're gonna do that for a while.
Yeah. It's like you guys can talk that crypto stuff all you want, and it's the next tulip, like everything else, But the people that are doing it in crypto are balling. They're making money.
Yeah,
and I ain't mad at them. But what's happening is they're going to try to do this. And I did see this that they're pushing for this Community Reinvestment Act. To go through, and that's how they're going to change the bank. They're going to try to change the banking laws through that. But I don't think they're going to be able to do it because once you do that, you gotta supply the world with it. And you call yourself the reserve currency, you're going to have to supply the world with it. And if you ain't going to be reserve currency, you're just going to have fiat money floating around just like you got now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's the whole catch, man. Like it's so at the end of the day, we all believe that at the end of this decade here, the Federal Reserve notes and the Federal Reserve system it won't look nothing like it does now. Now, at that point, what would it look like? Would it be solely CBDC and every other country that CBDC ready to roll out and people actually having their apps and health, all that stuff in their phones or what? But it's going to be just restructured and something new spun off of it, man, at the end of the day. So how, what, when, where, I don't know.
At the end of the day, what was it before the dollar? It was a glorified ledger. What was the dollar? It's a glorified ledger. What is the euro? The euro dollar. It's a glorified ledger. What is Bitcoin? It's a glorified ledger. All they're doing is just going glorified ledger after glorified ledger. But you have to have that you have to have something to say, I've got 28 trillion, 50 trillion in the bank that we can play with. Here's some money for your country. No one's got that.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody keeps saying the U.S. is still going to be the world reserve currency. But what China is doing is trying to force the countries to use their gold in order to back their currency. That way, everybody has skin in the game.
Yeah.
That's what I think China's trying to do.
Right. I agree. Hey, T, appreciate you, man. As always, brother. Good insights, boss.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So I see SG mentioned that Bitcoin is a derivative of USD, came out in 2009, keeps the fiat game running a little longer. And so based upon that statement there and the fact that all cryptocurrencies are priced in and denominated in dollar terms, that definitely sounds very plausible. And so at some point in the, I guess, some soon to be near future, we'll get to the point where we start pricing actual real world items in other things other than dollar denominated or fiat currencies will be the true indicator of the changing of the guards when it comes to the currency space. But as of right now, it looks like the crypto space is well in the green. We'll see how long that can last. But let me get some more calls here. Let me click this link. Give me 1 second here and I'll get this going. Let me figure this out. Shoot. Okay, here we go. Hello, caller. Where are we calling from?
I'm here. Yeah, Mike, Steve, FEMA Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Hey, you're talking about the Dollar Tree. It made me think of those candies, Jolly Ranchers. You remember the Jolly Ranchers?
Yes, sir. The good old days, man. Yeah, what's going on?
I remember when you could buy like the little just the one little Jolly Rancher itself, just the one little one. It used to be a penny.
A penny.
And now you go into the store. They normally have them right near the cash register, the individual ones.
Yeah.
You just grab and pay on the way out. Now they're about 15 cents for one.
Yeah, and what's funny is, to my knowledge, whenever I never see the actual, I never really pay attention to the individual wrappers. I always see the bag of candies, and I used to get those from the dollar store. Which over time, the amount of Jolly Ranchers inside the pack started diminishing down. So it wasn't like a full pack. It'd be like 8 or 9 in there, but they sell it for $1. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going, how do you go from a penny to 15 cents for one? That's crazy.
Compound inflation.
Hey, I picked up my solar generator probably about 2 months ago now. And when I first got it, I went, let me hook it up just to see how long it lasts on one charge or whatever.
Yeah.
And I hooked the I hooked the freezer up to it. I didn't hook anything else up to it. I just hooked the freezer up to it and just let it run. And it ran for about 28 hours.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it ran for 28 hours, and it's a big freezer.
Yeah.
6 foot tall, 2.5 foot wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it ran for about 28 hours, and I just let it run down to the last bar. I didn't let it run completely out because, from what I hear, you're not supposed to let them run completely out.
Yeah.
Because it'll shorten the lifespan on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, everybody should get one if they can, if at all possible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a bigger one that can run the house.
Yeah.
That's the next step. But for right now, that'll be good enough because if the power goes out, I can at least keep the fridge and the freezer going.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you got your panels, you can just charge that boy up, during the daytimes, and
correct.
Allocate your power accordingly.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, it would run indefinitely at that point. I didn't even use the solar panels. I just ran it the way it was. But they're pretty good, and they're pretty quiet too.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Hey, I'm gonna head up to the coast this weekend, up to Mendocino. So I'll take a photo at the gas station at the price of the gas up there. I guess that's the most expensive gas in the nation.
Really?
They said.
Okay, well, definitely
Yeah.
send that to me, and I'll post it for the community, man. I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah. I'll post it. But yeah, I'll head up there Friday.
All right, man.
Anyway, that's it, and I'll go ahead and let everybody else get in.
All right, my man. Be good. Thanks for calling in.
Take care.
Yeah. The purchasing power of the dollar is well beyond its point of no return, just because you can't really purchase anything that you really, really want in quantity for $1. So that lets you know that, and then I put up this little inflation percentage here. So this is 2,555% inflation through 2020. And this is from inflationdata.com, based upon the concept of compounding inflation, just similar to the way we're always taught. You put money aside and compound interest, allowed to grow over time. But think about, fiat currencies as debt based over time in real terms. Right now, from 1913 up until December, 2,555% increase inflation. That's like some Venezuela type style. But of course, Venezuela's 2,000% is in with like a year or something like that. But anyway, let's keep moving, man. Solo said Dollar Tree going to rebrand as $100 tree. Yeah, selling plastic knickknacks from made in China. And that's the biggest thing, is that at some point, all those items that say made in China, they will not be as plentiful. Therefore, there'll be no Dollar Tree, because everything in there will probably be $5. Was it $5 or more, or whatever that store is? It's a $5 something store, I think. But anyway, once all the items that say made in China cease to exist or no longer are allowed in, because right now I was looking at some figures, and I guess our imports, the deficit of imports coming in is going through the roof. So we're still exporting debt and they're sending us goods. The moment that stops, probably, which is what the whole supply chain is also, about as well. Oh, well, because we don't make enough here to sustain ourselves. So it's going to be a lot of discomfort just from the mere fact that people don't have most of the items that they depend upon on a day-to-day basis. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mike. Good evening, sir. This is Mike in Philadelphia.
Mike in Philly. What's going on, my friend? What's on your mind?
A little bit of uncertainty. Just something that I noted when this all began with COVID is that they seem to be very uncertain about how this is all going to proceed with COVID. Initially, this was supposed to be done last year by Easter. Then they were uncertain about the masks, etc. Now they're uncertain about the boosters. So the more uncertain they seem to be, the more certain things seem to be that this is the new normal.
Right.
And with the boosters, and I know we've had inflation prior to this, but really the big spike happened with all the spending and the businesses shut down directly as a result of COVID, absolutely directly a result of COVID. And I just see it being further prolonged and the booster sort of being the premise for that. So don't see this ending anytime soon. And just as far as the inflation and the disruptions and the imports and businesses and just the way we live, our standard of living. And we're only about a little over a year into this, and it's not slowing down. It's not going back to normal. It's only going to progress. And the restructuring of whatever we're progressing into is just going to be a big change. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be very different, and that's going to include at some point the monetary system. It's just the lifestyle it's going to be sustaining is just going to be different. What it's going to look like, I'm not entirely certain, but we're not going back. We're boosting into the future. Right.
Hey, I appreciate you for sharing that, and I do agree as well. And just to piggyback on what the former administration mentioned during one of his little press conferences, referencing the whole border crisis and how the influx of people are just being let in, which also destabilize things on purpose. He said that he see us going towards third world status. And of course, he knows a lot more than he's ever really going to say. But the fact first president I ever heard talk about our country heading in the complete opposite of what every other president usually, touts about and promotes about us being the greatest nation. But he's saying we're going the complete opposite. So third world status is what came out of his mouth. So that's just something to use as a gauge as to how bad things really could get. So think about, those nations that, no GDP, no income, poverty through the roof. That might be in alignment with what is in our future for some that's not, prepared and hedging against all this crap somehow, some way. So, yeah.
You know what was shocking about the influx of people from Haiti coming, from Mexico? There's a range of varying reports of how long they've been in South America, etc., how they got there, how they sustain themselves, etc., getting through all these dangerous cartels and so forth. But it's just been shocking, so shocking since 9/11, just the sort of security change in this country that we were so restrictive at one point, and we've just taken a complete 180. And what was very shocking was that Biden made such a strong, unsympathetic speech, I suppose, on just a few days before 9/11. It's so counter psychological to what we've been conditioned for from that event, not even that long ago. So it's just been, it really has been building back better, just not for our betterment. Somebody else, not sure.
Hey, man, good point, man. Appreciate you calling in, my friend.
Never forget. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yeah, very true. So it's just amazing how, and I was going to talk about how this video is entitled Fedflation. So it all boils down to the central point of failure for the global monetary system, and it's central banking and that whole usury, which is basically the excessive burden of interest payments on the average Joe that can't afford it, continue to compound on itself, making things unaffordable, and just the whole debt credit system, the way it's been designed. But every president has put in on this, this current moment. This is just not a Biden thing, a Trump thing, Obama. So every single president has put in on the events we're experiencing right now, because they were bought and paid for puppets that allowed everything that we're experiencing to happen. So just this right here, the consumer dollar purchasing power shows the diminishing of your ability to earn and save and to be able to protect and preserve your energy, your labor, your time, your skills, your entire life in a unit that it was meant to be stable. But yet once it was unpegged and gold and silver was removed, everything was just free game for the globalists to work on this agenda. And they've basically done everything they wanted to do to this point, which was to completely diminish this instrument right here. This debt instrument here is the reason why things are as bad as they are. And so when they run out of options of destroying this one, what do? They change the rules of the game. They give us this decentralized technology that's so appealing to everybody because, As of right now, a certain portion allows you to profit off of it. But then again, that's also to entice you to accept the idea of going digital and bringing in a CBDC stuff, which is their next phase of this global heist. So this little graphic here, man, it's pretty much the pinnacle, the peak of this entire show. Rethinking the dollar. It is the Federal Reserve notes system. That's the reason why this is what it is. And that's why I always mention that, all dollars are not created equal. You got this instrument here, which is what is your greatest financial liability. And then you got this one right here. This is the United States Mint version. Federal Reserve, United States Mint. If more people really start paying attention to that and realize that the more of these you have, the less you'll buy over time. The more of these you have, the more you'll be able to purchase and protect and preserve yourself and position yourself in a little bit more favorable way as time moves forward. Just because these little items here, things like this, they absorb all of these. So this right here will never, ever go to zero. It will never return to its intrinsic value of just being pure metal in the ground. But this thing here, it will. So yeah, just a little bit of a little rant there, man. But anyway, let's talk. Phone lines are open. And also, I'll make sure I give Red Boy a shout out real quick. I apologize for that, but it says, love RTD show. You have a great people calling in. Appreciate you, man, for being a blessing to the channel and being a part of the community. Thank you. Let's keep it moving, man. Feel free to throw some thoughts or whatnot, and we can keep this thing moving. Rolf says, U.S. Empire is exporting a lot of its inflation ATM. When the overseas US dollar flood back into the U.S. Empire, the real inflation starts. Yeah, and that's a whole nother can of worms right there, because within the last 100 years, when you look at the total amount of inflation compounded upon itself, 2%, and this is their number, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, all that compounding effect has led to 2,500% inflation in total, or everything costs 25% more than what it cost 108 years ago. Everything that was 108-year time frame. And so think about just within the last year, was it 30% of the entire monetary base was brought into existence and dispersed through different entities and stimulus checks? So imagine if within 1 year, a third of the monetary base was created, and that was supposed to just to help a recovery, but that's struggling. Imagine how in the next 1 year, 2 years, possibly how much more currency they're going to need just to fight off deflation. And then in doing so, causing the consumer price increases to just go ballistic. That is some very spooky stuff. Not to mention, as you just mentioned, Rolf, that all those notes and instruments and all those digital dollars in people's accounts that live abroad, and all the institutions that taking out all that debt, who still have, some actual, cash on the side in digital form, when they decide to try to buy stuff, they're going to automatically drive up prices. So it's good to say there's going to be some type of, as I mentioned earlier, everybody's expecting some type of market crash. Some people call it all types of different names, but there will be another hiccup like that. And then that will be the incentive for them to begin the printing presses to really go bananas. At the same time, the rest of the world might lose confidence as they see the monetary base going bananas. So they're going to send those currency units home, and they're going to look to buy real things. And there's only so much real stuff out here now that's not even affordable now. So imagine, and that's the thing, like I would assume, but yet I wouldn't bank on it, that they'll still be able to rig and control the spot price of precious metals in an environment where it's like a double whammy from within and abroad of currency units looking for places to rest. So therefore, house prices is going to go through the roof again after that major crash. Stock market's going to go through the roof, like, crazy numbers. Like nothing's going to make sense. Even more so, you won't be able to tell what you owe, how much, and at some point, it's going to get to the point where we will no longer look to price items in Federal Reserve note terms anymore, because it's going to be unrealistic. I.e., like Venezuela right now, you can price food. I think it's like I saw like an ounce of gold or ounce of silver is like 25 million or something like that bolivars, but nobody has 25 million bolivars. So you look for other ways to actually get that item. And what do you use? They use dollars to get that if they wanted, or they use Dash or Bitcoin or whatever else to get what they need. So that's where this is heading. People will not even look to use Federal Reserve notes because who's going to want them? It's all a confidence game. And once people realize that's their biggest problem, then they're not going to want them. Jimmy says, how many ounces of silver would you work for a day's work? How many ounces would you work for a day's work in a crash? That's an interesting question. Yeah, feel free to throw out some thoughts on that question there. So how many ounces of silver would you work for a day? Let me think. Man, that's a good question. Work for a day. So if we use the typical time frame of an 8-hour work day, and so right now an ounce is $22. So that's basically saying $22 an hour. So one ounce an hour is would be the going rate in this current environment. At the minimum, $22 an hour would be, I guess that's probably on average, I would assume. I'm not, no, probably that's more than that. That's probably more on average. But in a crash, I don't think anybody will be dumb enough to pay you in silver because there'll be no way of discovering the nominal price at that moment. Because mind you, if the currency is weaponized, meaning that people are trying to get rid of units of currency, just the Gretchen's law gonna kick in where you get rid of the worst first and you save the best for yourself in a sense. So I don't think people will be willing to pay anybody in silver. So but I would, give me, I would, an hour, give me 10 hours, give me 10 ounces an hour, depending on what I got to do. So that'll be in today's term, that's $220 or so an hour. I take that. That's something I can work with. But then once again, hyperinflation environment, hell, I'll probably take 4 ounces just to get something real. Yeah. Anyway, that's interesting, man. But what do you guys think about that question? 20 ounces for 8 hours. 1 ounce a month for groceries. A little bit of 1 ounce a month for groceries for 4 in Venezuela during the crash. 1 ounce a month. So yeah. Yeah. Philman says 1 gram of silver. Journey Moore says 8. Let me see here. I saw something about some weed. It says just got 3 ounces of silver from SD Bullion. Kenneth, there you go, my man. It says 1 in silver and 500 ounces of good weed. I'll do a good day's work. Oh man, interesting. Okay, so speaking of which, I haven't checked in real quick. Let me check in real quick and see what the going rate for an ounce of silver in Venezuela is, just for entertainment's sake, just to see. Because at this current moment, inflation is so dang bad that I don't think it really matters no more, but nobody is actually getting silver in Venezuela anyway. So as of right now, silver price in Venezuela in Boulevard terms, for whatever it's worth, is 90 million. 90 million. That's just the spot price. 90 million Bolivar would get you 1 ounce of silver. So this 1 ounce is 90 million bolivars. And speaking of which, I have my bolivars here, but I gotta get me a new set. But think about that. 90 million, 90 million pieces of paper. So mind you, 15 years ago, the bolivar highest note was 100, 50, 20, 10, 5, 1. So imagine 90 million pieces of paper. That is like a pallet, like a big pallet full plus some. So yeah, that's just a little history lesson right there, man. What happens when hyperinflation completely obliterates your currency? Nobody wants it. So that's another thing. It's a little bit. What about premiums? Yeah. So they don't really say much about premiums on here. This is just says it says silver price displayed above is for every minute. So this is just what the current rate is as of now. But just to piggyback even more, to give you an idea as to how over time, how the bolivar, which is their currency, as it was destroyed, it just gives you an idea of what's going on. So in 2019, January 2019, it was 52,000. So 52,000 pieces of paper would have got you 1 ounce of silver. And then it's 2020, and then we got, let me see. So basically, when the world shut down as a result of the pandemic, that's when things went just hyperbolic for real. 1 million. So literally, if you could have took everything you own in Boulevard Term and went to a coin shop or something like that and got rid of it, you would have been very happy to do so. And then it peaked. It peaked in July this summer at 101 million bolivars. And it's come down some. So that's what's happening in fiat terms in Venezuela. So yeah, that's what it is, man. Boulevard coming to USA. Yeah, at some point, yeah, but that's the thing, man. The tricky part is there's more confidence that remains in the majority because people are still willing to sacrifice, live, and base their entire lives in this currency. So that right there buys it some time because people will still be able to work for it even as it's being destroyed. And so if right now, if consumer price inflation is extremely high or getting high, 5, 6, 7%, what they tell us, really 9, 10, 11%, depending on who you get your sources from. But it'll probably get 20, 30% before they admit that it's double digits. And then at that point, it's going to be obvious. People still won't think it's the currency. People still going to think they got to go earn more or work harder for more paper because all they're concerned with is not necessarily the purchasing power of that currency unit. They're concerned with their lifestyle and what they if they can continue to maintain it or not. If they can't maintain it, then the natural thing is to do what? Either you go into debt using your credit card, or you get a third job, a fourth job, or you start borrowing, or when all your real options are exhausted, you turn to crime, robbing, stealing, all that stuff that people do in worlds where, it's just ain't no jobs. Poverty, like Nigeria is another example where 25, 30% unemployment, it's becoming it's extremely dangerous from what I'm hearing, all types of stories there. What do people do? You go out and commit crimes, man, trying to just sustain yourself, get a bite to eat. You go rob and steal. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi.
LBP. I'm doing good, my friend. What's up with you?
Nothing, man. Just, hey, you check out that guy? He's a young guy from Israel. His name is Rafi Faber.
I did. I saw some of his videos. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of them, but give me the rundown.
And I put it on Discord. Man, he has this really, really good explanation why there's so many shortages.
Mm-hmm.
His what do you call it? He talks about backwardation. You got to listen to him because he explains it better. I don't know, man. I'm getting my words mixed up.
Yeah.
But he talked about backwardation. That means like the commodity price
mm-hmm.
for the commodity now
mm-hmm.
is higher than the price in the future, because usually in the future
mm-hmm.
things cost more because you got storage and all kinds of and insurances and all kinds of different costs associated.
Yeah.
So he said the reason why all these commodities are in backwardation, meaning now is a higher price than later,
mm-hmm.
is because there's a lack of money. He says the lack of money, he means gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mean paper money, fiat. He says the lack of good money.
Mm-hmm.
So he says that's why everybody's buying everything up, But he explains a lot better, man. You got to check him out.
Yeah, I will do so. And then speaking of which, as you're saying that, I was thinking about listening to somebody, and they're saying that the futures contracts, are for some reason they're pricing in a lower increase or lower price rather in the future. So of course that all sets that the metals markets and whatnot. So the fact that everybody's looking to get physical now rather than wait to the future because of all the events unfolding and puts more of a pinch on things. So I'm assuming that's probably what you're referring to. So I'll check it out, man, because I'm definitely always down to trying to learn and better understand what's going on. But I'm still really trying to get my head around this reverse repo situation, because it's as of today is like $1.4 trillion, of currency given out in a day. Like, dude, what's that? Like, what's the end game for that? Like, what in the world is that going to look like as it winds down? So I got to really try to understand that, man. That's an anomaly.
I know you talked to him before, but I think the reverse repo masters like George Gammon, he
mm-hmm.
really understands it, but he explains it very well.
Mm-hmm.
But like at the end of the episode, I gotta watch it again because I don't sink into my damn brain.
Yeah, George, man, in 3 simple steps. Oh my God,
man. It's like the whiteboard explains it perfectly, but I still don't get it. And I'm that kid that I still don't get it.
Yeah. Well, at some point we're gonna witness it. You know, so it's sad to say, but oh man, good to hear your voice, man.
All right, Mike.
Be good.
Night. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh man, let's get ready to go. Reverse repo is banks having trouble. No doubt, because they're the counterparty. So the fact that I think it went from 70 or something, I saw it to 120 counterparties, like those are the entities amongst many other institutions. So the banks are in there too. So I would assume those are all the globally systemic important banks globally, and as well as their subsidiaries or whatnot that's having issues. And the fact that they're, looking to get rid of cash, that's the part where I'm thinking like, okay, they flooded everything. But it's like, man, like, okay, but you would think it's going to dry things up even more at the same time that there's foreign nations that need that cash. So why wouldn't they just, give it to them at a higher, borrowing cost and not have to go? So anyway, we're going to figure it out, man. Jimmy says, what is the M2 money supply versus oil and ground on Earth? Question mark. What is the money of oil and ground? Oh, man, that's a hell of a question there. I don't have the answer to that one. M2 money supply, other than what we were told. And, of course, oil and ground. Of course, SRS Rocco talks about, the energy shortage and how, we've reached peak energy or peak oil type of thing. So you factor all that in, it's trouble all the way around. So, it says they can't print enough to supply the world. They can't print enough, true, but yet, taking it in via the reverse repos. Why is that not used to supply that to the world? Why are the banks not lending? Putting that out there, even though they know they're not gonna get it back anyway. But just to get, was a 0.5% interest on that cash. Yeah, experimentation going wrong. That's what it boils down to. All right, people. But let's get it dialed back, man. I appreciate everybody for hanging out with us and checking in. As always, want to end on some good news, man. Let me see. Hammering Truth says, why does your representative have over 800,000 constituents? The Constitution says it can only have 30,000. Wake up, America. Yeah, so just that alone, that little piece of information there, 800,000 constituents, and the Constitution says you can have only 30,000. Yeah, like that's something. Yeah, like just the basic understanding of our legal documentations or our contracts with our government has been null and void for quite some time now. People pay no attention whatsoever, and the majority could care less. That's why the stuff has gone by under the radar, on top of the radar, because the average Joe don't know. And as long as they don't know, it'll keep going on until who knows what. Mike says, what do you think of the new censorship from YouTube on this experimentation? Not surprised at all. I think it has a lot to do with Project Veritas starting to get a lot of people's attention. And the fact, as I mentioned, starting us off, that Project Veritas, as of yesterday, the video was still up and it had 400-some-thousand views. I think part 1 and part 2. But that's very shocking because usually that stuff is flagged, it's taken down right away. So those 400, 500,000 views on YouTube is getting people's attention, and it's causing people to wake up. And I guess the powers that just trying to orchestrate all this, they point at YouTube saying, hey, you're the head, you're the number one search engine, you're the number one video streaming platform on the internet. Do something about this. So, of course, they're going to change the algorithms to make sure this is, effective. Come all Google search terms, or everybody who speaks against the government moving forward, going to be, taken off, taken down, or just drop down to the 100th page where you never see them. And then I didn't get into this today, but, here's the next subject matter that we're going to touch on. But it's all about, detention camps, our government rounds up of resistors in our future. And then it just, goes down a little bit. It talks about under the indefinite detention provision of the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, the president of the military can detain and imprison American citizens with no access to friends and family or courts if the government believes them to be a terrorist. So, mind you, all the legal framework that they're going to try to use has already been written over the last 20 years, starting with the Patriot Act, plus some. And there's a lot of things that they have signed that we may not even know about. So these are some concerns that we're going to be facing moving soon. They got to make sure they cut off all media outlets so people can't find out about it. So, as always, I want to make sure everybody know, beneath this video here, connect with us on Discord so we can keep that conversation going there, share videos, share articles, connect with us on Telegram so you can stay in tune with everything and share stuff there. And then also Rumble, BitChute, Library, or Odyssey TV are also available. And I'm actually going to look into live streaming on Rumble. So I might end up somehow, some way. I'm not sure how to pull this off in an effective way, but on Rumble. So all my content, as soon as I'm done here, it goes up on Rumble. So make sure if you guys are on Rumble, which you should be, go subscribe to Rethinking the Dollar on Rumble. All the videos go up there right away. And there's a live streaming feature, which I'm going to try to implement. So make sure you guys connect. So there's no excuse not to be able to still connect with the community and be a support to the people you follow on the internet. So anyway, people, I've been ranting too long now, but as always, it's good to connect. And back at it tomorrow, Lord willing. Other than that, be blessed, be safe, stay prayed up, stay stacked up. And of course, take advantage of the prices of things now, because it's as cheap as it's ever going to be in this decade moving forward. So take advantage of anything that you use now, plus some. And then also with this comes opportunity to create new possible, streams of income off all this, because there's going to be a lot of problems. Try to find solutions or be the solution. And then you'll be somewhat in good shape. But anyway, we will live to fight another day, people, Lord willing. Anyway, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Let's close out a little bit of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for one more time, being able to gather one more time and to just lift up the name of Jesus Christ. We thank you for your word, which is a light to our path, Father. We thank you for your spirit, which dwells in each and every one of us that believes in your Son, Lord. We ask that you will continue to work with your perfect will in our lives collectively as the body of Christ to fulfill your purpose on this earth, Father, which is to reach as many souls as possible in the time that you've given us in these bodies, so that we can bring you glory, so that we can expand your eternal family, so that in the end, when you return back to this planet and redo it, we can come here and set up shop and live with you for eternity in a peaceful state of mind. And just to do everything and receive everything you've promised us and blessed us with, Father. We just thank you in advance. Be with all our brothers and sisters facing persecution around the world. Be with those that are feeling the effects of this experimentation in their bodies. Lord, we ask that you cover them with your blood and heal and protect and raise up everything that belongs to you, Father. We thank you in advance for what you already finished. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, people. That is all she wrote. I promise you. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Peace. Visit Rethinking the Dollar throughout the day. Your place for news on metals, gold, crypto, you name it. Scroll down to the bottom and you get a chance to see the daily videos, the recommended videos, and more importantly, the 5 reasons to unplug from the monetary matrix, with the first one being the awakening period. Step number 1, test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions, average is 60%. Follow up with the alternative perspective with the monetary reports. Consider becoming a supporter of the Rethinking the Dollar platform via Patreon. Get a chance to hang out off air, as well as additional information that can't be discussed on YouTube. Any support is helpful. With the crackdown on alternative media, the best thing to do is connect off air. Scroll down to the very bottom. You can find Rethinking the Dollar on Telegram, audio, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, you name it. The most important ones will be the email list where you can get notified weekly, the Discord page, and make sure you connect on Telegram. And last, don't forget to visit the RTD store where you can get merchandise as well as additional information and resources. And most importantly, scroll down to the bottom and get your weight up with all the limited edition rounds only available on the RTD store.